Talk Shoes. Recorded live.
Good evening, everybody. My name is William, and you're listening to Genesis Science Fiction Radio, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. And today is April 12th, 2013. Our special guest is Lamont Wayne, a multiple threat in creativity. He is, he does animated videos. He's an artist. And I think what I'll do is, rather than take up all the time trying to describe him, I'll just bring him in. How are you tonight, Lamont?
I'm doing great. How's everybody?
I'm hoping they're okay. They're all muted because we'll get to, actually they'll be asking you questions in the second hour of the show. Why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up? And first of all, where did you grow up?
Well, I'm from Lynchburg, Virginia.
Uh-huh.
It used to be a small town. Actually, it's grown up quite a bit because of the local Liberty University. But Lynchburg, Virginia, and actually I came back here. I focused a lot on art in high school and actually won the art award from the school. And I went off to the Savannah College of Art and Design down in Savannah, Georgia, and I majored in animation.
So even at an early age, you knew you wanted to be an artist, right?
Well, at first I was a writer.
Okay.
When I was in kindergarten, I was always writing little short stories, and it kind of annoyed me because my kindergarten teacher always sent me up to the principal's office to, read my short stories to the principal. Sometimes, I was in the mood for that, and sometimes I wasn't. But at first I was a writer, and I entered a lot of young authors contests, and I won a few ribbons and trophies. And it wasn't until fifth grade that I discovered drawing.
Okay. Now, when you say you were sent to the principal's office, was that? I mean, that almost doesn't sound like a bad thing. That sounds like a good thing. Like, well, why don't you're special. Why don't you go read this to the principal? Was it punishment or was it like a reward?
Well, back then it felt like punishment. No one else had to go. But I'm sure my parents enjoyed that. I went up there and had to, got to read stories when I was 5 years old.
Sure. Okay, and so once you got into high school and you started kind of developing your talent, did you have good encouragement? What was that like at that age?
There was good. My art teachers, they really encouraged me, and there was a lot of positive reinforcement, and they pushed me to do things that I normally wouldn't do. And that helped prepare me for when I went down to Georgia.
And a little bit about Georgia. What did you go there to major in art?
Well, when I went, I didn't have animation in mind.
Okay.
I went down there kind of as a undeclared.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had sequential art in mind, which is comic books. But when I got down there and I saw all the different majors, I saw film and I was like, oh, I fell in love with film. I was like, that's what I want to do. But then I found graphic design that I liked doing that, and I changed my major, more than I should have.
Sure.
But eventually I found animation, which is really a combination of all of it. So, fell in love with that and been doing that.
So what kinds of things did you do at the college level? I mean, how far did you get into it?
I helped to found the Classical Animation Society there, and the club is still in existence, and they're actually the longest running student organization there. Now they're called the Contemporary Animation Society. I animated on a few short films. Was a member of the SCIFI Atlanta down there. Almost founded another SCIFI chapter, but that didn't work out. But yeah, I was pretty active in school.
That sounds pretty cool. Now, okay, so you go through school, I assume you probably finished up, right?
Yeah. Well,
And
while I was there, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, well, while I was there, I was one of the, I guess, the students that needed to work through school.
Right.
So the job that I found was I ended up in direct sales. So and I ended up liking that and ended up being good at that. So I kind of left animation for a while and I went over to direct sales. And I ended up doing that for like 10 years.
What were you selling?
I sold Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Those are very my grandparents had a Kirby, and they treated it like an heirloom, not like a vacuum cleaner.
Probably because how much they cost. they do cost a lot of money.
And so that's like commission work, correct?
Yeah, all commission work.
Excuse me. So how long did you do that?
Well, I did it for around 10 years.
Man. And what brought you back to art?
Well, I left the direct sales and I ended up in various customer service jobs.
Okay.
And I ended up, the last job related to that, I was in the life insurance part of Genworth Financial. Mm-hmm. And it's part of the story that I tell everybody. My career has come from social media. A friend of mine from college contacted me over Facebook, and he asked me, hey, how's your, flash animation skills? And I was like, hey, they're sharp as ever. Mm-hmm. So he got me onto a show. Well, he got me a freelance job working on some animation for PBS. And once I left Genworth Financial and started doing that, I never looked back, and I've been doing animation ever since.
Well, it also sounds like you kept up your skills during your Kirby years, too.
I did. When I was in people's houses, whenever they had kids, I pulled out some paper and a pencil, and I'd draw, Mickey Mouse or SpongeBob or whatever, and make the kids go crazy.
It's not a bad sales technique. Were you pretty successful?
I was successful. I sold door-to-door for a while. I ended up being a supervisor, and I also was a trainer.
Okay. Not bad. Tell us a little bit about, your reemergence or into art at PBS. What kinds of things were you doing for them?
I was an assistant animator on the, it was the, I'm sure the older folks will remember the Electric Company.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I was an animator on the new Electric Company, and they had an interstitial in the show called The Electric Company on Prankster Planet, and I was one of the assistant animators on that little cartoon that played within the show.
How old were you?
Oh, this was back in 2011.
Uh-huh. Which still doesn't tell me how old you were, but that's okay. I mean, if you want to keep your age, No, hey, I'm not a guy to pry. I mean, when you're 81 like I am, you can get pretty sensitive about those sorts of things.
Well, I was 34.
Well, that's still, I mean, that's a great age. I mean, stop and think about how much career you still have left. That's the cool thing about it. You kept up your skills. You maintained, your animating skills, your drawing, or at least your drawing, and so you get an opportunity like that, and you're ready to jump right into it.
Oh yeah, and I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do when I was in college. When I was when I was at SCAD, I had gone up with the student organization to tour Primal Screen, and that's who I did the PBS work for. Was the studio in Atlanta called Primal Screen. Always wanted to work for them, and that's actually who I ended up working for first. And I wanted to do a lot of work for the internet, that's exactly what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm. So how did you evolve to your current kind of business model?
It just paying attention to the market. once I left Primal Screen, I did work for a couple of other studios, Sparkflow Studios in Washington, D.C., and, just looking around the internet, and I'm seeing, these types of promotional videos that were coming from the company called Epifio.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm saying, hey, I can make these things. So, it was another friend from Facebook who introduced me to Carolina Country Homes. And they needed a promotional video, but they couldn't afford Epifio and their, sky-high price. So I did that video for them. And they came back and they told me that they were getting, wonderful feedback from it, and they were getting leads from it. So I figured, hey, I must be, good at this, so let me just start doing this.
So, excuse me. So that's just in the last couple of years that you've really been applying yourself this way. How's your success? How successful are you at this point? I'm assuming that this is your primary revenue stream, and that you've got enough of a name out there that you're getting some repeat business. Is it working well for you?
It is working well. I've had about, I'd say, 15 to 20 clients in that time. I'm connected to various explainer video companies that I create for. Video Brewery, Wooshi, Genius Rocket, Gate 5, and also I know there's some people in the chat that are talking about GoAnimate. I actually work with GoAnimate now to create those videos and beta test for the website. And it's been nonstop. I've been very lucky. It's especially for just doing you're having your whole income stream just on stuff for the internet. So yeah, I've been very lucky. Social media and social networking has driven all of it, and it's just been a ride.
That's very cool. For people out there who may be starting out and have not achieved your level of success, you mentioned social media as being very, very helpful for you. What other things, how else do you package yourself and package your talent in order to look for new work, to get new exposure? I mean, do you deliberately have a marketing plan for yourself?
Really, I really haven't taken that step just yet. I think I'm just about there to start an actual robust marketing plan for myself. But so far, it's just been word of mouth and social media. It's been Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and the About.me site and Quora.com, and just people seeing my work and sending me an email. And it's just gone from there.
And that's
and referrals. Them referring me to others.
Yeah, referrals always work best because obviously somebody has already endorsed your work. So now you're at the point where you're doing well, you're self-sufficient in terms of, your company is self-sufficient. What kinds of things do you think that you're going to look to want to do maybe a little different? Do you want to branch out into different genres? Do you want to try different aspects? I mean, what do you see for yourself for the future?
I do. I recently got the partner status on my YouTube page, or YouTube channel, excuse me. So I've been wanting to focus on that a bit. I have a couple of animated series that I wanted to try to develop for YouTube. And with the explainer videos and the promotional videos, I would like to start doing some tutorials for that, to do like a video blog for that. So yeah, like an animated series and a video blog, that sort of thing for my YouTube page.
Very cool. We will be putting up links throughout the evening to your various endeavors online so that people who are logged in, called in, and dialed in can take a look at some of your work.
Awesome.
While we were getting ready for the show to begin, you mentioned a group or interviews interviews that you had to do with kids. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I'm one of the production partners and beta testers over at GoAnimate.com. And for those of you who don't know what GoAnimate is, it's a web-based studio where you can create your own animation. Try to imagine Adobe Flash and PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint. If you take both of those programs together and they had a baby, that's what GoAnimate is. And I created some short films over there, and actually a couple of the films that I made ended up in a film festival over in Hollywood. And my animations over there are kind of popular. Mm-hmm. So they're, and the website is marketed towards middle to high school students, and a handful of them have their own talk show where they record various users, answering questions, and they animate the whole thing. Well, I've done a few of those, and they've asked me about my work, and they've asked me about certain, my videos, the swords videos. Those are popular over there, so they've asked me about that, and just various things. So I've been interviewed before, but they were, they're kids.
Well, I mean, what kind of questions did they ask? Naturally, I want to hear that I'm doing much better than a bunch of kids, but
actually, the
was
questions
it fun?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. Well, they just wrote down the questions, and I just recorded them and
sure.
emailed the recordings to them. But it was a lot of fun, and they did ask me some.
You mentioned that they animated you based upon your responses.
Yeah, they see my little avatar and the way that I look in my avatar with the white tuxedo and the black bow tie, and they recreate that little guy in the GoAnimate studio, and it's me, and I'm there sitting on a couch, and I'm talking to them as they're interviewing me.
How cool is that? All right, so what other kind of attention or crossover attention did you get from, let's say from the Hollywood contingent that took a look at your work?
What I got, it was Hollywood Shorts that had hosted the film festival, and I think they're responsible for the number of people that follow me on Twitter, because they talk me up a lot on the Twitter, mm-hmm. and they named me. They have the blog, and they had the filmmakers to watch, that they named, and in 2010 they named me one of their filmmakers to watch.
Wow.
So they've been really nice to me.
And how how are you handling? I mean, this is some fairly significant attention pretty early on in your career. I mean, not that you're a youngster or anything, but considering what you've done just in the last 3 or 4 years, how do you see it? I mean, are you comfortable with it? Do you want more? Is it been surprising? I mean, how do you look at the past? Let's say the past 5 years of your career.
Well, it's actually happened pretty fast, and if I had known that it would have been this fast, I would have come back a long, long time ago. And I've gotten to do some pretty substantial things. I've actually gotten to be, I got to work with 6 Point Harness, and they, if you're familiar with the cartoons on YouTube, they create the Dick Figures animated series on YouTube, and it's like the number one. Well, last year it was the number one animated series on the net, and I got to animate for their season 2 finale, the Bath Rhymes music video, and I have work in that video. I got to work with. I'm still under an NDA with them, so I can just say that I got to do some very cool animation related to AIDS and HIV prevention.
Mhm.
I got to work with another project with Primal Screen for Cartoon Network Latin America. I mean, I got to work with a studio in New York, Rubber Onion Animation, and I got to work on one of the ADA Sports short films online. So it's been a lot that I've been able to do in a very short period of time.
Well, I mean, it really sounds like your career has blown up very, very quickly. I mean, I obviously you said that you are very grateful for that, and you do seem to be handling it very well. Let me ask you this: what's the worst part of achieving the level of success that you have so quickly for you?
Well, actually, it's if you talk to other creatives, and it's actually something that I thought was, because I used to think that my background in the direct sales and the customer service and all that, I used to think that it was a waste of time. But especially now in the climate of the animation industry now, that being in that direct sales is one of the absolute best thing that could have happened to me, because so many times I've talked to colleagues who they might get, some work here and there,
sure,
and they're having to struggle to find, clients on a regular basis. Well, me being trained in direct sales, I take a little bit of time every day, and I'm looking for my next client. And I guess that could be the hardest part for a lot of artists who, are trying to do it, trying to be, rely on their art alone as a source of income. And I guess that would be my bit of advice to them. Every day, even if you're in the zone and you're drawing and all that, set aside an hour a day and prospect and look for your next clients, because that's what's made the difference for me.
Well, a lot of artistic types don't necessarily have, those well-developed business skills. I mean, I have to agree with you that being in direct sales, you want to talk about something that hones your skills, that puts you in a place where you have to sell yourself. And the other thing is, think of all those people who have vacuum cleaners who wouldn't have them had you not come into their lives.
That is true too.
So you have a very well-rounded aspect in terms of your business, in terms of how you developed your business. Let me ask you, how are you at collaborative efforts? I mean, have you worked with a lot of different people at different levels? And for the times that you have, for the projects you have, how did that work out for you? Are you okay working in that kind of environment?
And I went back to one of my old professors, and we had a conversation about this very same thing. And I told him, I don't think I'm ready to be a director. And he told me to just go ahead and do it, because there's so many different levels of skill levels in directors in the field that, I should just go ahead and try it and just, see if I like it. And he had faith in me that I could do it. Well, that one project that I can't really talk much about.
Sure.
The one where I worked with AIDS and HIV prevention. I was a lead animator on that project, and I led a team of 3. Well, actually, it was 3 animators, and I'd say 4 or 5 artists.
Okay.
And I actually surprised myself. And the project was actually behind schedule when I got it. And it was really the studio was really under the gun. And really everybody worked together very well. I mean, I was the leader of the whole thing. I guess I had something to do with it. But everybody pulled together. I just took it and organized it, and I had the meetings, like we're talking right now, online, and we used back then I wish I could talk about it back then, but it was new. Everybody uses Dropbox now. We reused, Dropbox and the Google Docs to keep everybody organized, and it really worked out well. And also on my personal projects, I have a little team of college students who formed there's a group of college students that formed a little company, and all they do is animation assistance. And I've worked with them and, back and forth with them on some of my personal projects, and, it's worked out well. So, I don't really see myself as
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I really don't see myself as, a very good leader, but, I've done it and I've been successful.
Man, that's great. Let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of your art. What kind of tools do you use, and what are some of your favorites, and specifically the software tools that you use to drive your art and do your creative?
Oh, it's mostly Adobe. I use Adobe Flash. Back in college, I primarily used Adobe After Effects. Photoshop, all the different Adobe products. That's what I use to create, and I use the Wacom graphics tablets to do the drawing. I don't have a Cintiq yet, but I'm working on it.
Is that a matter of just spending the money to get it, or are you working up to it in terms of skills?
Just working up to get it. I love my little Wacom bamboo. I haven't made the decision to actually change my workflow yet, but I'm working up to it.
All right. So now let's. I mean, obviously you have the one thing that you can't talk about. What do you think? What are some of the projects that you have coming down the pipe that you're pretty excited about?
Well, actually, that project that I can't talk about.
Okay.
The animation that was done, the client wants more.
Mm-hmm.
So later this year, I'll be back, directing, that project again.
Sure.
But I'm always producing explainer and promotional videos for companies. And my animated series, I've started to write for that, and I've got some stuff that's coming up. Yeah.
Let me ask you that. Let me look at the excuse me. You say you started out as a writer, and I still don't understand being sent to the principal's office to have to read your stuff out loud. There had to be some. I mean, there's got to be some bad karma or something there that we're not going to ever find out about because you weren't interested in it at that time. But how is the writing coming? I mean, are you very good at putting together the content as well as the accompanying art?
Well, I still write. I write for the explainer videos that I create.
Okay.
And writing short form it can be challenging, especially when you have a company who has all these different, the value of their company and all these different things that they want to say about their company, and you have to condense all that down into like 150 words. It can be challenging, but I've written and I've been successful in condensing that down and still getting the punch that these companies want and portraying the what they want to portray in the videos. And it can be tough, but I try my best.
With kind of the creative market, animating, all of the things that you do, it is kind of contracting merely because of an economic, a bad business economic client. What do you think helps you stay ahead in the game and keeps you in front of people? Is it just simply the quality of what you do, or, as you said earlier, do you think that the marketing component, the self-marketing component, is really adding to and keeping you in the game?
I think it's a little bit of both. I try to do I try to create a quality product for my clients, even though with the explainer videos, there's a certain style that they're after. I mean, I could sit down and, animate it, drawing by drawing, but,
Sure.
they're not after that. They're after a certain look. So I take that look and I try to make it look as, quality as I can. And people notice that, and, they want that look for their own video. As far as the marketing, it makes a difference. I just set up my own website, like an actual portfolio site for myself finally, and it's attracted clients. So establishing yourself with a solid website and promoting it on your social media, it does make a difference.
Mhm. It's funny. You've got two questions here, but let me ask you this: how's the money compared to selling Kirby's?
Well, as funny as it sounds, animation sells a whole lot better than vacuum cleaners.
Very cool. and then let's talk about what you do. Somebody wants to know: do you get your work on the basis of your content? Drawing black people or incorporating them into your art? Is that a big thing, small thing, or are you just doing straight spec work and you do the work that they want?
That came up on a Facebook page. I think the page was called Black Business Owners or
Okay.
something like that, and they were talking about using black people in your marketing,
Mhm.
and does that hurt you when it comes to sales? And a lot of them were trying to say yes, that they try to avoid it. But I was the voice that said, absolutely not. I'm my character. It's a black character. He's, of course, he's in a tuxedo, and he's holding he's holding a martini, but he's a black character, and he's right up front, and it hasn't hurt my business at all. So, I don't know why it would hurt
Right.
the company. I mean, if I were to meet a client, face to face, well, I'm a black guy. So, I don't see how that would hurt. I worked, door to door for years,
Right.
right in their front door. So, I think really it's you can have the black characters as your logo characters, but just make sure that you represent it right. Offer the customer
Sure.
service, offer the the outstanding product for your client.
I was going to say that, just from a business perspective, if you do something well, obviously you find a niche, you fill it well. It almost doesn't matter what color you are if you deliver the goods. Is that
Right.
what you find?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hold on a second. You're listening to Genesis Science Fiction Radio, a service of the Black Science Fiction Society.com website. Tonight is the April 12th, 2013 episode. We're talking to Lamont Wayne, an animator, a multiple threat, a guy who has work that he can't talk about. That's how good he is. Some of his work he can't even talk about. And someone who was sent to the principal's office to have to read his stuff when most kids were learning how to write their letters. So, I mean, that's pretty remarkable in any case, Lamont, that you were that creative that early. Do you do much community outreach? Do you work with children, or do you try to help? I mean, you mentioned the college group that you're kind of at least working with. How is that, like, what's the formation of that? Are you mentoring, or is this straight up commerce? Describe that a little bit.
I do some mentoring with some of the students on the GoAnimate.com.
Okay.
The students who are ready to leave the GoAnimate platform and go to something a little bit more professional, like Adobe Flash or Toon Boom.
Mm-hmm.
I have done some community outreach in the past. Unfortunately, I've been kind of busy lately, so I haven't been able to do it lately, but I am willing to do it. I have done it. I've worked recently. Actually, I worked with the Young Entrepreneurs Academy here local, and which is a program with where students create their own company. And they brought in some special guest artists and designers from the community here to design, the students' logos and their websites and such. And I did some designs for an ice cream company. So I don't do as much as I'd like, but I do the community outreach.
Well, I mean, to be honest, there's a certain luxury element to be able to have the time to do it.
Yes.
And you did mention that there is some contraction in the business environment. But why don't you talk a little bit about that, and has it affected you, or what do you see as the overall effect on the animation industry and the kinds of digital arts that you engage in?
Well, the industry is changing. I said it years ago. I got funny looks when I said it, but the animation industry is changing. There have been massive layoffs in animation here lately. I know just the other day, Disney just laid off about 150 artists from their animation division, including some of the more talented artists. They lost their jobs. Of course, there was the layoffs in digital effects and rhythm and hues. How 1 week ago they were winning awards for their work on Life of Pi, and the very next week, they're all getting laid off because their company declared bankruptcy. So industry is changing. I think me personally, I think that the industry is top heavy, and they know this, and they're doing what they have to do to stay profitable. I think that animators that are on the television level and the internet level are positioned better. I mean, movies are never going to go away, but I think that the animators who are involved with online gaming, the ones that are doing the web video, and the ones that are working in television, we're the ones that are, positioned better than others. I think that's where
a little more recession-proof.
Well, I don't know if anything's recession-proof, but this is the way that. Oh, I got corrected. 350 people lost their job. But I think that right now, the way that the industry is right at this moment, that's where all the momentum is. Luckily, where I am. But it does influence me, and it influences all of us on this level, because all of a sudden you've got all of these feature film level artists who are now out of a job, and they may be looking towards what we do and trying to find work.
Sure. Sure.
And we're not immune. I mean, we have our own challenges. We're a part of a global economy. The jobs that I get, I have to, compete next to the people that are in India, that are in China. They're applying for these, explainer videos too. So I think that the industry right now is just in a transitional period, and it's just a very, I guess it's very nervous, because so many people are losing their jobs right now.
In your opinion, what do you think is going to contribute most toward your longevity? What are you going to do to try to make yourself, as I characterize it, less recession-proof, so that you have, you can maintain the kind of workflow that you need in order to sustain you?
I think that social media is the key for me.
Mm-hmm.
It has been the thing that's driven, I'd say, 90% of the work that I've gotten has been social media. Mm-hmm. And as long as that stays, and hopefully that will, it'll be more permanent than not. But as long as I can still reach people through Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and I have websites like Video Brewery and Wooshi where I can find the clients that are looking for the work.
Sure.
Then I'll be fine. But
all right. On a personal note, I mean, I spend when I'm not out working, I spend a lot of hours in front of my computer. About how much time a day are you online? Are you working? Are you sitting down in front of your workstation, either creating or doing the marketing and keeping up with your social networking?
Well, like most animators, they'll tell you, we spend a lot of time in front of the computer.
Mm-hmm.
12-hour days are not out of the question.
Sure.
Simply because, a lot of work goes into animation.
Yeah.
And while I work, I'm always keeping an eye out on, Facebook and my email and that sort of thing for clients who are, asking, for rates and that sort of thing. So, I'm sitting with my Adobe product, wherever it is, probably Flash most of the time. And then, I'll get a bing and I'll, check my email and take a second and respond and then go back to Flash and, I'll get another bing and, oh, you want me to prepare a contract? Great. Let me write that up, send that off and send you a PayPal invoice. And then I'm right back to animation. So, between 8 to 12 hours a day, I'm either animating or I'm doing more of an office aspect.
Sure, the administration of the business kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so when you're not sitting in front of the computer, when you can kind of walk away from it, what kinds of things do you do to keep fresh? What other interests outside of the work environment do you have?
Well, I draw. I draw a lot. I like to go out with a sketchbook and life draw. I like to travel a bit. Right now, I need to. My car is not very travel worthy at the moment, but once it is, I'll be getting out and traveling a bit and doing some light hiking here and there and looking for inspiration. But the little bit of time that I get, I visit with family and friends.
Uh-huh. Do you live alone?
I do.
And is that easier for you? It's easier for me as a writer. I mean, I don't know about for you, but I would guess if you spend about 12 hours in a chair working every day, I find it much easier living alone. Well, for me, it's more of a pathetic thing. But when you're in your zone, how tolerant are you of interruptions? Do you have things, pet peeves that kind of set you off? Are you very insular and focused when you're doing your work, or is it a little more easygoing and well-adjusted, a little more well-adjusted than that?
I certainly try to.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, interruptions are inevitable. Because when you're someone who works at home and not like within like an actual building that's away from your home,
yeah.
People have the tendency to think that you're not really doing anything. So, if they need a favor, they need a ride somewhere, they need you to come and fix their computer, which, if you're, an artist type like me and you use the computer, like everybody assumes that you're like, Geek Squad at Best Buy. You're the
Sure.
everybody's IT department. But, and it's inevitable, and you just deal with it.
I lived with somebody. I actually married her, but then we parted ways. But she would call it playing on the computer. Are you done playing on the computer? And it's hard to convey to somebody who doesn't see it differently. And obviously, same thing for you. I have people calling all the time. Oh, hey, something happened to my whatever. Can you give me a hand with that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you? Oh, that's another good question. Do you build your own workstations or do you buy off the shelf? I'm just curious because I do custom builds for people.
Oh, well, my computer in college was a custom build.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I don't know. I guess I just didn't have the patience. I just got it like near Black Friday and got
Okay.
the current workstation I have. But I can build, but the setup I have currently is not. But I do have a what you would imagine an animator to have. I've got the toys and the figures everywhere and the little doodads all over my workstation. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I can relate. As I'm sitting here looking around my workstation, it looks like somebody threw a hand grenade in a bunch of mail and just let it go off. So I definitely can relate, man. Now do you get involved with any of the conventions, any of the cons that go on either in your area, or do you travel to any?
Unfortunately, I don't live near many. I mean, there's a Comic-Con that's in Richmond that I haven't had a chance to get to. I mean, I guess I could go to the New York Comic-Con, but right now I really haven't had the opportunity to get out. I know I've been invited to some, and I've been pretty much told that I had to attend some, but yeah, I've been told that I have to attend CTN, but I just haven't made my way out there yet. I think it's kind of like the marketing aspect. I think I'm just now getting to the point where, I'm in a position to start, an aggressive appearance at these things.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just reading something here. I will never forget my ex talking about me playing on my computer. And anyway, so it sounds like you have a pretty cool life there. You're very comfortable in the Virginia area. You don't do a lot of traveling there yet, but you're on the cusp of maybe expanding your business paradigm so that you get a little more exposure. Are you looking forward to that? I mean, the not so good car notwithstanding. Do you want to get out there, meet more people? Do you want to meet more people who know about you and your art? How do you feel about meeting your fans?
Oh, I do. I mean, networking is a huge part of what we do, what freelancers do. So I am looking forward to it. And I have a bunch of business cards that are sitting here collecting dust. So they need to blow the dust off of those and start passing those out and getting rid of them.
Now, how did you find? Did you have an affinity with somebody or a relationship with somebody at BlackScienceFictionSociety.com? How did you either find this venue, or how did the venue find you?
I mean, I know someone who was over there. Hold on just a sec.
Oh, see, now that's embarrassing when you have to go look up somebody's card or their name.
I'm trying to remember the guy's last name. I think it's yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm just messing with him. I know Tony Cade.
Okay,
and
the administrator says that he stalked you.
Well, he kind of did the stalking thing.
He's good at that.
But it's all
He's
good.
very good at that.
It's all good.
What's nice with all of us being in different parts of the country, all of those orders of protection work out just fine because most people don't usually get within 100 miles of everybody else. So that's at least a saving grace there. Have you taken a look at some of the talent on the site, and do you have an affinity for some of the things that you see? I mean, you don't specifically fall into the science fiction genre, but do you see an affinity there for yourself?
Well, my younger self would have loved the site. I used to write science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten away from it, and I've gotten into the corporate side of things. But I would love to revisit science fiction, in the future. I would love to do a science fiction animated series, actually. But I'm sure the administrator will tell you that he would like to see me on the site more than I'm there. He's always wanted me to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say it was Tony Cade who really pulled me in there, and I've actually worked with him on a project before. But yeah, everything that the artists do there it's all outstanding work.
Yeah. After the show, I'll pimp my own book to you. I don't want to do that during the show. It's so tacky. But
that's fine.
If I can get somebody interested, that's cool. All right, so you're pretty good with collaboration. You're great with projects. You've got an outstanding career that has taken off and blown up very quickly for someone your age, or at least not necessarily your age, but just the time you've put in. If all of this goes south, let's say that they decide that the internet is going to go the way of teletype. Do you think that you're going to have to fall back on having to go and sell Kirby's or the like, something similar? Do you think you can prepare yourself for doing something like that if something terrible happened?
Well, I tell you, when I was at Genworth, and I made the jump and left, the thing that convinced me to leave was that even if I did it and I failed, and I wasn't successful at animation, at least I went back and I gave it a try.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I have to fall back on something now, I can at least say, this was my life's dream. I gave it the best shot I could absolutely give it. I had a little bit of success with it, and if I have to fall back to something else, then at least, I did this little bit, and, I'd be contented with it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, your career looks, it's envious. A lot of people who are starting out will look at where you've gotten in just a handful of years and be, very, very surprised. Some will be a little bit jealous. Some will be wondering, why can't I achieve that level of success? And you seem to have handled it really well, man.
Thank you.
So, is there anything that you can suggest? If you were just going to have a casual conversation with somebody, and they're saying, okay, Lamont, this is outstanding. Look what you've done since 2010, 2009, whatever. What's your advice for maybe me being able to, if not duplicate your success, at least put myself on the same road to the kind of success that you're experiencing?
I would say to start small.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you can't draw for anyone like a corporate client, draw for yourself. Draw just go out, find some life drawing classes, start drawing, and start creating something of a portfolio for yourself. And two, and I think this is the most important thing, talk about your work. Don't be afraid of putting your work out there and getting feedback from it. Because one, the feedback is, critique is very, very valuable, and don't take it as, like, if someone says something bad about your work, don't take it as a bad thing. Take it as a constructive thing for you to take back to your work and say, okay, well, they said this, so let me go back and tweak this, and then put it back out there and see if it's better, and see if I can grow as an artist. Mm-hmm. And two, if you're talking about your work on your Facebook, on your Twitter, your friends that you have, especially your professional friends, hey, they need, logos and websites and that sort of thing. And if you present yourself as someone who is able to do that, then you can attract clients that way. So yeah, I would say practice makes perfect. Get your work out there and talk about what you do. And you'll be amazed at what kind of feedback you'll get.
It seems so easy, and your advice seems so, clinically it seems spot on. But I would have to say that, knowing the creatives that I do, knowing the kinds of people, that I've met maybe over the past decade, a lot of people don't have that kind of confidence. And, they do take criticism in a very bad way, in a way that's destructive, in a way that doesn't help them grow.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see some way to try to explain to people? I mean, because that's the bottom line important issue in terms of trying to be a commercial artist, in terms of trying to commercialize any kind of creative endeavor, is that you have to have a thick skin. You have to look at criticism as constructive, whether the person meant it that way or not. They said it for a reason. And the last component to that is, if at first you don't succeed, don't quit. I mean, I can't imagine you ever giving up just because somebody said, "Oh man, his mustache is messed up," or whatever the criticism might be. I mean, those are great words to live by. That's good advice that you've given, and unfortunately, it's the hardest for me to see people taking, because any kind of artistic endeavor is a validation or an invalidation of self, no matter how grown up you want to be about it. But that's the part that people have the hardest part, I believe, in disconnecting. Instead of taking criticism as some sort of slight on you as a person, or that you're no good as a person, you have to take it as something that actually helps you grow. Did you always feel that way, or did you have to learn that? Did you have to be able to disconnect your own ego from what you did in order to be able to sustain yourself?
Oh, as far as me personally, I think that my direct sales experience was the thing that gave me the alligator skin, the thick skin.
Sure.
But for someone who doesn't have that kind of background, I mean, if I would say to that person, if you truly love what you do, and if you're an artist today, and you're trying to, be a commercial artist, and if you don't love what you're doing, you might want to go back and reevaluate why you're doing this. But if you truly love what you do, then you need to start from there and find the bravery that you need to go and step outside of your comfort zone and share your work with people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have to dig down deep, well, then dig down deep. Just get it done. If you really love what you do, find the bravery through that to share what you do and get it out there.
I contend, and this is just a judgment that I've made in the time that we have spoken, that your experiences going door to door and dealing with that kind of rejection, that kind of aspect in terms of selling, in terms of having to present a product, I can't imagine a more valuable experience that you could have had that
Mm-hmm.
help you for in exactly what you're talking about. Do you believe
and
that?
For the longest, and for the longest time, I thought it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
I thought, doing all this stuff that's not related to, my career. I've wasted all these years, doing this stuff. But now I find that, the lessons that I got from it translated over into, the freelance animation work that I'm doing now. I mean, those lessons are invaluable.
And that is so good. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do a station ID, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. And a lot of people have not actually called in, but, you've got it on the screen as well as I do. People can type in questions, and then I'm going to ask them to if anybody has any questions for you. And then there's going to be this massive amount of silence. There will be dead air because nobody will say anything, because this is what happens every single time I do that. It's almost like a surprise. So I thought I'd get that out of the way while I say, while we're getting ready to set that up now. For those of you out there who are listening, you're listening to Genesis Science Fiction Radio, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is the April 12th edition, 2013, and we're talking to Lamont Wayne. And for those of you out there who have managed to dial in, does anybody have a question for Lamont? See what I tell you. Yeah, okay.
I always have questions. This is Jay, the administrator. Just as a point of reference, someone that's interested in getting started in animation, where should they start? I mean, they haven't had any experience. Where should they start at the ground level?
I would say to start with drawing. Get the better of a drawer you are, the better draftsman you are, the easier animation is going to be for you. So I would say start there. Go to Michael's or whatever art store that's near you. Get a pad of paper, get a pencil, and start practicing. And have fun with it. I mean, it shouldn't be a chore. Just go and draw for yourself. Draw for fun. As far as animation goes, I mean, you can try GoAnimate.com. I think that I know a lot of professionals don't like that website because everything is pre-animated, and they say that it takes all of the they say it's cheating. It takes all of the talent out of it. But I believe that GoAnimate can teach you a lot about staging. I believe it can teach you about timing, and it can teach you about storytelling. So, if you want to, you could try GoAnimate.com, GoAnimate.com, and just open it up and just start, playing around with it.
Okay, cool. Now I'm going to let somebody else ask a question because, I'm always full of questions.
All right. There's the only other person on the phone call is Penelope. Do you have anything you'd like to ask Lamont? Apparently not. I have a question for you. When you do start touring, how are you going to set up your marketing efforts in terms of meeting the people who maybe appreciate your art and things like that?
I think when I start, I'd rather just go around with business cards on my smartphone. Because with the business cards, they have a point of reference to talk back to me. And with my, smartphone, I can show them my, demo reel and some other projects that I've done. So, I'd start there. Eventually, I'd love to set up a booth and, have like a small TV there with, a demo reel on loop and maybe some, design samples in front and just, start something with something small like that. But eventually, if I do, build a company, if I do, then sure, I'd have the big booth with the big graphics and everything.
Sure. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions that they'd like to ask directly?
I got a question.
Okay.
My name is Alonzo, AVT Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I should say that. This is my first time calling in. But I'd like to ask, you said you work with a team. Do you work with, how many black animators have you worked with? So when you're building a team or working virtually with a team, I know that lots of times when I work, I'm also an animator, that I don't always see the face of the person, or it doesn't really matter or not. But have you found that there's less black animators, or have you worked with other black animators? And do you feel like it's to the professional standards, considering like what you mentioned about drawing being one of the key elements to being a strong animator? Do you find a lot of proficient black people that you can work with?
Yes, they do exist. You can probably count them on your fingers and toes, but they do exist. I know a friend of mine works for Naughty Dog. He's the video game company that does the big games, and I've actually worked with, on the project that I can't really talk very much about. One of my animators was black, and the other one was Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have worked with black, I have worked with minorities, and the quality is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they exist. We exist. We're very rare, but we exist.
Few and far between, you would say?
Yeah, few and far between. I know that the studio that I worked for in Washington, D.C., Sparkflow Studios, that studio was minority owned.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's the only minority-owned studio I've worked for. But, it exists. They exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was leading to that as far as a independent base of income, for black animators going to other black animation studios. So that's the first time I've ever even heard of let's say a mid-size scale animation studio. So,
well, I wouldn't say they're. Oh, that's fine. I wouldn't say that they're a mid-size studio. I would say that they're a very small-size studio.
I see.
But they do exist. They do professional work. I worked on a commercial for them for Text for Baby. And I worked on a commercial for Slab Watchdog with them. I worked on a music video with them.
Awesome.
So yeah, they do exist. They do quality work.
Somebody wants to know who are your heroes and or maybe some of the people that you look up to in the business.
Well, I was lucky enough to have been taught by a few ex-Disney animators, and a lot of the Disney animators are my heroes. I was lucky enough to meet a black writer when I was in elementary school, and he's actually still, active in the community here. His name was Hiawatha Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, he had a radio show where he would go on the radio and he would read the African stories. And I remember I always wanted to be just like him. And it was funny, in the 5th grade when I got my, I guess you could call it my first major literary award, he was the one that presented it to me. So,
how cool
yeah,
is that?
Yeah, so yeah, he's always been, one of my heroes, and the traditional guys. Not so much the 3D animators, but the traditional guys that do it the hand drawn way. No, they're my heroes.
So would you consider your bent more classic rather than some of the more advanced ways of doing 3D animation?
Well, I was trained in a very classical way.
Mm-hmm.
I was trained with the paper and pencil, and you're on the animation disc, and you're flipping through the light, and you're drawing. That's how I learned animation.
Right.
It's just that with Flash and After Effects and all that, it's just a different kind of a pencil, and it's a time-saving pencil. But I still carry the lessons
mm-hmm.
that I learned from the traditional, and I carry that on into the work that I do now.
Very cool. People are asking, or someone has asked, the level of skill that you have. You've mentioned going out and actually drawing, on a even a daily basis. Do you think that that's probably one of the best ways for skills building to get to the level where you are?
I'll put it to you the way that it was put to me by one of my ex-Disney professors. Her name was Nancy Beeman, and she's worked on a lot of the Disney features, and she's written some very good books. She told me, draw until it hurts, and then when you absolutely cannot draw anything else, draw some more.
Mm-hmm.
Always have a sketchbook with you. Always be drawing. Always be sketching.
That's kind of like I played professional tennis, and people come to me and they say, well, how do you get as good as you do? And I said, I'll tell you the secret, and you can't tell anybody else the secret. This has to stay between you and me, because if everybody found out, my value as a coach and all that would just be ruined. And they go, well, how is that? And I whisper to them, hit 1,000,000 balls. And then they get up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's it. That's the secret, and that's essentially what you're saying too. You have to be in the service of your art, and if you're going to be in the service of your art from a financial aspect, it's you have to be prepared to do what's necessary to hone your art to such a skill that people will pay for it. That's the other
Mm-hmm.
component. Do you have something that's worthy of somebody spending money on? And just because
Mm-hmm.
you've done it doesn't mean that you're going to make money at it.
True. And you have to keep yourself current, too. I mean, it's not just the drawing, because there's always a new computer program that's coming out, or the same program that you use to create the animation, well, there's another version that's
Mm-hmm.
come out that has a different workflow than you're used to. So, yeah, when you're a professional artist, you're always going to be learning. You're never going to stop learning. So just get used to drawing and researching and tutorial videos. Just get used to it, because you're always going to be dealing with that throughout your career.
Mm-hmm. There's a question here about how can you convince younger black students, especially, I guess specifically males, that not only do they have to learn how to use the tools that you just described, but they also have to figure out and attain the skills at writing, at being able to construct a story, a beginning, a middle, and an ending that's worthy, something that keeps people interested. Do you have any views or any suggestions on how to kind of build up that kind of interest, or to foster that kind of interest in younger kids?
I think a nice little tool that you can use if you're dealing with students and you're talking about writing stories is comic books. Get the kids to read a comic book.
Of course.
And then after they read that comic book, have them talk about the story and what happened. Because every kid loves comic books. I mean, if you put a book with no pictures in it, they probably won't read it. But a comic book, every kid loves those. And comic books are very we'll find the well-written ones. Find them a story that they can really, get into and talk about.
And they're very portable, too.
Right. So you have them start with that, and have them, bring them back after they read the comics and have them talk about the story. And then have them go back and, create their own comics or storyboards.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, they can go into animation and bringing the characters to life. But yeah, I would first, focus on getting them reading.
Well, there's obviously an art to that. I mean, there's an art to teaching as well as creating.
Right. I know with the GoAnimate.com, I mean, there is the temptation to just dive in and just start moving characters around the screen.
Sure.
But it's not until you actually have, something for them to say that they'll actually get the results that they're looking for. Because I know a lot of people, my nephews included, they'll go in and start moving stuff around in there, and it's like, well, why isn't it as good as yours, Uncle Lamont? And well, what's going on? There's no story going on here. So.
Right. Very cool. So, are you looking to create your own? Let's say you create your own speculative universe, and you're going to populate it with your own characters. You're going to do your own animation. Is that something that appeals to you, or are you very happy doing spec work and the kind of teamwork that you that has brought you to where you are today?
I mean, I enjoy the work dealing with clients just because I guess I've become a people person, and I enjoy that. But no, I would love to go back and create worlds again, and create stories again, and develop characters, and I would love to get back into that. It's just a question of getting to the point where my rate and getting the clients coming in the door enough that I can afford to take the time to do it.
Sure.
Not there yet, but I'll get there. I'll get there soon.
Well, okay. So someone's asked again, which is more practical, skills or content? I don't know if it's easy to separate the two. In terms of storytelling.
I think that the better way to teach storytelling is to work on skills first.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to tell a story first, and then find out what you want your story to be about.
Yeah.
Can I interject?
Sure.
Yeah, so that was my question, and it's something I struggle with. I've been working, for most of my life as an artist, and one of the things that has been a great thing for me, getting to know the Black Science Fiction Society, is that a lot of them are very content-driven, and seeing that I've been working as, a professional artist, making a living at it, it befuddles me that I've never really taken the time to really develop content. And I was just watching the NAB show, and everybody was saying content. But I'm just trying to figure out, maybe I spent too much time on developing skills, which I don't regret because I pay my bills. But then when I say, well, I could have developed a story a long time ago, 10 years ago, So it's like, which one would have been better? I mean, I don't regret, but it's just like, wow. I see so many people, like what made people say, oh, I need to develop content as opposed to, just the logistics, the practicalities of being an artist, I don't know if that makes sense, the way I'm saying it, but,
no,
it's
it makes
just
perfect
that one versus the other. Go ahead.
No, it makes perfect sense. When I hear you say content, what I take that to mean is having something to say, having some kind of, having a character that goes through something where the reader, it moves the reader or it makes the reader learn something more about themselves, or something. They're a different person for reading your story than when they started. When I hear skills, I mean, okay, how do you, what are the tips and tricks to actually, portray that to the reader?
Right.
So,
That's exactly
I would, yeah. So I would say, focus on writing skills first. Learn how to, keep your reader engaged. Learn how to create suspense. Storytelling skills first, and then focus on, what are you trying to say to somebody.
That helps me a lot. That definitely answers my question. Is how to engage. It's like, oh, I want to write a story, but how do I engage? I don't want to just write something just because I can do the artwork, but what techniques are they using in the industry currently that are gripping and engaging and developing? That's almost like developing skills again, but it just seems like, it's like I didn't get a light bulb that said, hey, write a story, make a universe. I question why that never happened, but, I'm moving towards it, but I move very cautiously towards it in the sense that if I do that, I know I'm going to grip you. I know I'm going to get the timing. I know I'm going to get those type of plot points and things of that sort that will make it a successful drama that will then pay my bills.
Right, and I'm sure that there's a wealth of resources online. There are writers that have blogs, and they talk about how they, create suspense. I know that I've got a couple of books on writing for animation that have helped me. So with technique and how to do certain things and how to present certain things. So, research that and get good at that, and then you can take, that hero's journey that you want to portray, and you can portray it and not, bore the reader to death or bore the viewer to death.
Are you familiar at all with someone's asking Tom Hanks' Electric City series? Say that fast 5 times.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of episodes of it, and I think it's won an award or two.
What'd you think, generally speaking?
Well, I think that it's very well written.
Okay.
I think that visually it's very beautiful. I think that the animation could be. It could have a little bit more production value, in my opinion, but I think it's a wonderful series.
Mhm. When you say it could be better, do you think they're taking shortcuts, or they're just content with the level that they're performing at?
I think that it is flash animation. I think it is television level flash animation, and I think that it could. I think that it could be more. I think that it would be nice if it was, feature film level animation. I think that's what the story deserves.
Sure.
But.
And what about the Sci-Fi Channel's Defiance TV series? And I think they're also going to spin that into an online gaming environment, are they not? Do you know?
I haven't seen that.
I haven't either.
When you say the TV series and online gaming, I've actually been involved with that. The Primal Screen project I worked with PBS and the electric company on Prankster Planet. That was actually also an online game. Like the kids would watch the show, and the show would direct them to the online game. So it was like the animation was the first half of the episode, and then the other half was them going online and playing the game, and that was the conclusion of what happened. So
how successful was that?
Say again?
How successful was that in terms of drawing the kids online and getting them to interact?
I was only involved with the animated series part of it, but if you went to the game and looked at it, the character design, the way the characters moved and acted, it was all seamless. So, it was very successful, and I think it got some acclaim as well.
Very cool. Anybody else have any questions or? Comments? If not, I can talk all night. Yeah, I'm really good at this. Well, you got to have your skill sets. So what's coming up immediately? I mean, if people, why don't you tell people the best places to take a look at what you have to offer? We'll of course post the links as well. But if people want to just go take a look at your work, where can they find it online right now?
I've just set up a Behance portfolio site. Mm-hmm. You can go see that at lamontwayne.prosite.com.
Okay.
There's also my about.me page, which links to a lot of different things. And I actually just figured out how to put a video on that, so I'm very proud of myself for figuring that out. Mm-hmm. And actually, a friend of mine told me about it, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I want to do that. But it's about.me/Lamont Wayne.
All one word.
And all one word, Lamont Wayne, all one word. And there's also, I have a Pinterest where you can see, it's not as developed as I would like, but there's a couple of pages that have a lot of work on it. Pinterest.com/ChaosToon. ChaosToon.
Very cool.
And you can also follow me on my Twitter, and that's twitter.com/ChaosToon.
So there's no excuse for anybody going, I can't find him. What does he have? What's the www?
Well, you could probably just Google me, and you'll find all of it.
Sure, and also for those who tool around, you've got a page, you've got your profile page on blacksciencefiction.com, don't you? Society.com.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So people can go ahead and do a search for Lamont Wayne there, and a lot of that same information is there. We'll also be posting up, as you can see in the chat room, Jarvis is posting up some of the links to your places too. It sounds like you've really got everything wired well, and as I've said, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I really think that having the skills, having the confidence of having to go door to door to try to sell something, I can't imagine that not being a highly significant part of your development as a business person and your development as somebody who interacts with the public. And there are so many creative people who don't get that kind of training, who don't get that trial by fire. And I truly think that you're a good example of just why developing those skills is so important. You're an easy interview. You know how to talk to people. You're certainly not in any way a reclusive or shy about talking about yourself. And I think people can take good notice of this and think about, think in terms of how they present themselves commercially, how they present themselves as a business person, and even how they present themselves as a creative person. I think you have a lot to offer. I'm hoping we can pull you back on the air, in the future so that we can keep track of what's going on in your life.
Oh, sure, sure.
Let me ask, I'm curious about what kind of stories did you write? When you were writing your stories as a young person, and you said 7 years old you were writing stories?
I started at 5.
At 5 years old. Okay, so for the rest of you mopes out there who feel, intellectually stunted, obviously Lamont is not the person you want to hold yourself up to. But, what kind of stories did you write? Well, I'm just being honest. What kind of stories did you write? How involved were they? How did you get your characters? What was your inspiration for that creativity at that level? And do you think it's changed much, today? My mom has kept some of the stories that I wrote, and it's interesting to go back and. I'm hoping it's more for sentimental reasons than blackmail. Oh, okay, all right.
It could be from blackmail, I don't know. But it's interesting to go back and to read, what you wrote about, back then, and I guess it is surprising that a lot of what I wrote was character driven.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I wrote about kids. I wrote about people and how people interacted with other people. When I was in middle school, I started up with the SCIFI, and I wrote a lot of time travel stories. And actually, that was the name of the books, was time travel. I wrote 4 of those, and each one of them won Young Authors Contest awards. And in high school, I had moved to I can't remember the name of the Written and Illustrated by contest. It doesn't exist anymore, but I entered that, and I had written a couple of children's books for that, and they got they didn't win the big prize, but they did place pretty high. So yeah, I mean, it evolved from trying to write older to younger with me.
Right. Hang on a second. You're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. Tonight is the April 12th, 2013 edition. We're talking to Lamont Wayne, who's a great animator, who's got I think, a career that's really taken off and taken off well. And in terms of your story writing, if you were going to start writing today, do you think you would stick with the same genre? It sounds like you're looking at maybe sci-fi or drama. Is that attractive to you today if you're going to do that level of writing?
I would like to tackle a combination of those things. I'd like to write a sci-fi drama, but I do have some story ideas that I want to develop first. I guess you could say they're on my quote-unquote shelf.
Okay.
One of them was, for the people who are familiar with the Go Animate work that I've done, with the Go Animate platform, I did a series of videos called Swords, and people are wanting me to continue the story that I wrote. I don't know if I want to use Go Animate to do that. I think I might just want to open Toon Boom or Flash and, make an animated series out of that. There was a story that I came up with in high school that I want to develop that was kind of like it's kind of like an underdog thing where all the characters are like dogs and cats, but it's kind of like a parody of like the DC comics. There's a Superman character, there's a Batman character, but they're all like dogs and cats and stuff. So there's that idea. And then there was the birthday present that I was going to give my nephew that I never got finished, where he and my nephew Jamari, he's very active with his church and everything like that. And I was going to make a biblical superhero out of him, and make either a short film or a series out of that. So there's a lot of different things that I want to write. But yeah, I would like to go back to science fiction though, and make it a drama. I know a lot of people miss Firefly, so something like that would probably be fun.
Excuse me. When you look at commercial television, it's very, very hard to keep a series on the air. You look at how, was it Fox that screwed up Firefly, where they didn't want to do the episodes in order, and it didn't catch on as quickly as they wanted, and they knocked it out. And then you have what was the other one recent? Oh, Sci-Fi Channel, with both Sanctuary and Stargate Universe. I think both of those, because they didn't garner the kind of attention, the kind of ratings they wanted, they left early. Being able to do this on the web, in your own environment, seems to suggest that you wouldn't necessarily have those same kinds of pressures.
Right, and
go ahead.
Oh, and today it's just a fantastic atmosphere to do this. I mean, you've got the series that I worked for, Dick Figures. They went on Kickstarter, and they got the funding to create, a feature-length movie for their, animated series, whereas, they tried to pitch it in Hollywood and no one would even touch it. You've got the Cyanide and Happiness comic strip, who turned down television offers because the producers didn't want to make the show the way that they wanted to make it. So they went to the crowdfunding, and they got it fully more money than they even wanted or asked for. So yeah, I mean, today the atmosphere to create a series online, you have complete control over it. And if you've got the audience, and I think that's the key though, is that you have to have the audience to make it work.
Sure.
But you put it on Kickstarter and you raise the money that you need, and you can do everything yourself. And I think it's just a fantastic time. And I think that if there are any creators who are listening to me, that they need to just get it together, put a pitch book together, and just get your show together and get it up and going, because you have no excuse anymore.
Well, not only that, if it does gain the kind of online popularity that some of these do, you're going to get them coming back to you, throwing buckets of money at you anyway. Because nothing sells better than success.
Oh, true. And of course, there's the merchandising aspect to it too. You can do all that yourself now as well. So,
do you think something like that is in your near future, or are you've kind of shied away from saying that it's something that would happen soon? But I mean, obviously, you still have that wanderlust in your heart to do your own work, and even the science fiction stories. That aspect of it seems pretty attractive to you too.
Yeah, I think just like with everything else, I think I'm at the crossroads where I'm just at the point where I can make the jump into putting a crowdfunding platform together and actually getting something made.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading some of these comments here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a good idea here. I'm just going to use me as an example, but I'm a novelist, and people who have read my first two novels say these are perfect for making movies out of. But that's a very expensive proposition, and it's a very difficult proposition. It's a very heavy lift. With the kinds of tools that you use, 2D and 3D animation online, it would seem that there's far more opportunity for content creators to cross the multimedia divide, to maybe go from novels or go from comic books into animation. Do you see that becoming, even though we're losing more animation jobs than maybe we're gaining right away, do you see that as a natural progression for people who want to expand the reach of their art?
I think that there's a lot of potential if you're an author and you have a book that either you want to promote or that you want to turn into maybe even not so much an animated feature, but maybe even a like a motion comic. I think that is something that you can do on online very easily. With like the videos that I make, the promotional videos, you can make like a small little, 30-second or 1-minute video promoting your book. Mm-hmm. Showing the characters and showing a little teaser of what happens, and then pointing to your book on Amazon or wherever it is. If so the viewer can say, oh, let me go get the book and find out what else happens. Or you can turn your book into a motion comic and, have a series in that way. As far as turning your book into a movie, I think the easiest way to do that would to find some indie filmmakers or some small independent filmmakers and, just sit down with them and have a discussion about it. I mean, and you are right in that, it is a, process to go through. But again, with, sites like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, the funding part of it is easier than it has been.
Yeah, I excuse me, but what at the bottom line to all of this is something that we discussed earlier, is you have to have a story to tell, and it has to be a compelling story. And the other part that it appears to me that a lot of people neglect is if they do have either a novel, a comic, or a motion comic that they want to try to get turned into a television show or a movie, you have to go and there's a process. And in the process, you have to put together your documentation. You have to put together your pitch. You have to put together a budget. I mean, it's not something like, I've actually heard people go, well, I called somebody and I told them my idea. I said, well, what did you tell them? I said, well, it's like, Star Wars, but with black people on a planet with killer porcupines. And just throwing a pitch out there is such, it seems like it's so unprofessional or certainly incomplete. I have always said that if you want to get a project done, your job is to take away every reason for the person to say no, every reason for the person you're pitching to say no. You take every single reason for them to say no out of the equation, and you've done more than half the work. So if you were going to advise somebody to want to take their written creation or even their comic book from a business perspective, wouldn't you recommend that they, first of all, see other people, how they've done it successfully, and then try to emulate that model? At least you know that you're doing it the right way.
Right. And as far as what I do and how that relates to that, 75% of people online are watching video.
Mm-hmm.
So, to ignore, video as a way to market your book, I would do that at your own peril. I mean, a video online, like a YouTube video, it's easily shareable. People can spread the word for you. Get people excited about your book. It's a valuable tool these days.
Mhm. Yes, I'm lagging a little behind on mine, but it is something that I've written a script for and something that I want to do, because I do recognize that even if you don't have, let's say you don't have 10,000 friends on Facebook or something like that, having it available for people to even stumble upon is much better than not doing so. Because what it does is it gives you a pipeline into people's eyes, ears, what have you, that is easy, it's portable, and it doesn't cost you anything other than your initial production costs.
Right. Very true.
Yeah. Do you do spec work for people? Like if somebody came to you and said, hey, I have a book trailer that I'd like to write, are those the kind of jobs that you pick up as well as some of these bigger projects that you're involved in?
I try to stay away from the spec work.
Okay.
But if you have even, I create videos in various levels of intricacy, I guess is a word I could use.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have any kind of a budget for your video, people like me, we can work with you. We can get something online for you.
Right. But then that person says, well, can you help a brother out? Oh, come on. I know you've heard it.
I have heard it.
I got an idea. It's not really complicated, but if you could maybe help a brother out, I could really get successful and then pay you on the back end. A lot of people don't realize that this is a business, and what's cool is you've managed to turn your art into a business in a very short amount of time, and you've been very successful at it. I don't know. I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall when somebody approaches you with something like that, because it's got to be fun listening to you have to do that tap dance to say no.
Well, here's my advice to anyone who is wanting to hire an animator.
Sure.
Money equals seriousness. Like, if you have some sort of a budget that you can create your video with, that goes a long way. Well, it goes a lot farther than saying, hey, if you can you hook me up, man, and when it blows up, I'll make sure that you get a percentage, after it blows up. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't do that. Have, do what you have to do. Crowdfunding, credit card, however you want to approach it. But, when you approach a freelance artist, try to have some sort of budget that you're working with. And, we're more than happy to work with you, even if it is even if it's a small budget.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So, we've gotten to this point now. Tell us your worst horror story that you've got about a project that you got into that in hindsight you can think, I never should have said yes to that. And you don't necessarily have to name names, but I mean, I'd love it if you name names, throw it on out there. But no, I mean, what's the worst possible project that you've ever gotten involved in, and what made it that bad?
Oh, my horror stories are all from Kirby. Well, all the interesting ones are all from the door-to-door sales.
Well, tell us a couple, because I don't think anybody here knows a Kirby salesman.
Okay. Here's the best one.
All right.
I had a team of 5 salesmen, and we took a road trip up to a small town, little mountain town near the West Virginia border.
Mm-hmm.
And started the day off. I knocked one of my dealers into a demonstration, and nobody else could get in. So and it was early in the day. I had one of my dealers who had a feminine need. So I was like, okay, we can all take a break and go to town and go to the CVS so she can take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled my van in front of the CVS. Oh, and this was on 9/11, not the 9/11, but I think one of the anniversaries of it.
A 9/11, sure.
It was a 9/11, and she went in to the CVS with another dealer who was trying to date her, and I was chilling out in the fire lane, and all of a sudden there was this unmarked I guess super cop car who pulled up next to me, and this dude came out in like this full riot gear. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at this small town. They have this is all that they have to do is tell me how to get out of the fire lane. So I rolled my window down, and I was like, okay, I'll move it. And the guy's like, turn the engine off, get out of the car, put up your hands. I was like, whoa, what is going on? So the guy rips me out of the car, and I didn't see the cop car, the other one, pull up. And like 2 other guys with guns rip open the back door of my van, and had guns on the girls in the back, because one of them was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, what is going on? And they had sent and there was in front of the CVS, there was like 2 guys that were reading the newspaper. As soon as everything went down, they put down the newspapers, they draw guns. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just selling vacuum cleaners. What's going on?
What,
come
did
to
you
find
walk
out,
into a sting?
Yeah, apparently. Apparently there was a guy who looked like one of the dealers I had, and he had a van that was identical to the one I was driving, who had done something obviously pretty bad. I mean, they never told us, what, because as soon as they found out that we weren't them, as soon as they appeared, they all it was like ninja vanish. Like they were just gone. We were like, what just happened?
Man,
like, oh my
you're
gosh.
lucky you weren't shot.
Well, yeah, and we were mad. We were like, you know what? This is some BS. So we went to City Hall, and we talked to, I guess, I don't know if he was the mayor or not, but he told us this, he basically brushed us off.
Right.
So we were like, you know what? Let's just go back to work. So I get everybody back in the van, and we're riding through the neighborhoods, and apparently this mountain town, everybody has those little CB radios.
Right.
So as soon as my van I pulled into this neighborhood, and there was a lady who was sitting on her porch, and there was maybe a 2-year-old kid in the yard playing. You should have seen this. I mean, she turned into the Flash. She shot off of that porch, grabbed that kid, and shot back in the house and slammed the door. As soon as she saw my van come around the corner, I was like, "What in the what?" I was like, "You know what? All right, let me go take a break and get my head together." So I pulled into the little local Dairy Queen or whatever, right?
Right.
As soon as my van pulls in, everybody pulls out. Right? So like, what's going on here? So we're talking to the people who work there, and they recognized the van. They knew what happened. So as soon as my van pulls out, all the people come back.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to be in a shootout with the people who did something bad in the van.
Or whatever. So I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm out of here, and I haven't been to that little town since.
Well, you almost, excuse me for saying so, but you almost sound like the Jehovah's Witnesses of vacuum salespeople. You all get in your van, you go to another town, you rouse the people up to try to get them to buy your vacuum cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad that it didn't turn out any worse than it did.
Oh, I don't know how much time we have left, but there's, the story of when I ran into a serial killer.
Oh no, we definitely have time for a serial killer story. Cough it up, man.
Oh well, this was in a town right outside of Charlottesville in Waynesboro, and we were working a neighborhood pretty tight, and it was in a cul-de-sac, and we had sold just about everybody in this cul-de-sac at Kirby, and there was I'd say 3 houses left that we hadn't gotten, and I was in one of them, and I was writing up the contract with the lady, and she told me, "Have you been over to that house over there?" And I was like, no one's been home. Why? And she said, "A serial killer lives over there." We were like, "What? Serial killer?" She was like, "Yeah, for him to be in the neighborhood, they had to tell us that he was there." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're not going to that house." But little did I know that in one of the other houses I had a dealer in, the serial killer knew those people and was over at the house watching the demonstration. And he told my salesperson that he wanted to see one in his house.
Oh man!
So I got all of my.
This was before that person knew that was the serial killer, right?
Right. She was in that house with that family, and she had no idea that that visitor was a serial killer.
Oh man!
So I gathered all my salesmen together, and I said, "Okay, who wants a sale?" And everybody's hands go up. And I was like, "Okay, well, there's a catch."
Did anybody go in there? Did anyone go in?
Well, not to ruin the story, but no. But the catch is that the guy is a serial killer, and all the hands go down. Yeah. So what ended up happening is the salesperson that was in there with the guy went up to the door, and I guess there was an older lady who answered the door, and she said, he's not in the mental capacity to do this, and sent us away. But yeah, we encountered a serial killer.
Oh man! How many vacuums do you think you sold in your whole career?
Oh, hundreds. No way of knowing exactly. Hundreds, thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I contend that experience made you the gregarious business person that you are today. And I'm going to recommend everybody starting out. I want everybody starting out to go and sell some vacuum cleaners, okay? Because look how well it's done for Lamont. Hello?
I'm still here.
Are you still there? Lamont, are you still there? Maybe Lamont fell out.
Yeah.
I hope his
maybe the serial killer got him.
Or yeah, maybe he's being stalked.
Or the ninja SWAT team.
Man, I'm telling you, I've never met. Well, no, you know what? You don't know if you've met a serial killer because every Halloween I dress up as one. I pretty much wear my regular stuff because they look like everybody else.
Exactly.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, are you back?
Oh, yeah. I think I lost you there for a sec.
Okay. I can't imagine, the kinds of things that you must have seen and done as a door-to-door salesperson. And the fact that you even have decided that if everything goes south and you had to go back to do it, you would go back to do it. I think that's pretty cool, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, we've got about 5 more minutes left. Does anybody else have any questions for Lamont who may be on the line?
Just a quick question about the Kirby selling. While you were selling, how did you feel about your art while you were selling? Like, were you, apprehensive about being an artist and selling vacuum cleaners, or did you draw any connection between selling vacuum cleaners and your artwork? Was it any time that it was positive, or were you in your downtime drawing?
At the time, I didn't draw any connections. The selling Kirby's was just so I can pay my rent. But I did have, I was good at selling them, and I did enjoy selling them. And, from time to time, I would draw, in my presentations for the people. But I never stopped drawing. Yeah, I never stopped drawing in my spare time. But at the time, now I see a connection. I see a very strong connection, and it has helped me marvelous much. But back then, they were two separate worlds.
That's interesting because I've done a lot of things to become employable, and from factory, once I was just pressing bottles in a factory, and no matter what, like, I could not get the fact that I'm an artist out of my head ever. And so literally, and I just had a real big sense of naivete. But even on the boxes where I had to ship, I had to pack out the bottles, I was drawing innately the letters on the boxes. It was like, even at I was working at a freezer meat packing place once. Just starting out, getting a job. I was probably like 20 years ago. But literally, I would paint the signs for the job. It just seemed like art always found a way to seep into whatever it is I was doing. So, and that was a good thing for me, because I always felt like, well, if I could draw any kind of connection between my art and the job I'm doing, then I'm still on the pathway to doing art. So, but for you to say, like, you're just completely disconnected, I was just wondering what type of effect did it have on you that you could pick up, like not lose your dream altogether and pick up and do that again.
Well, at the time, I mean, now I see the connection, but at the time, I had, temporarily left. Well, I had left animation behind.
So
I didn't
did you
want
say,
to.
I quit? That's it. I can't do it, or your mental state about it.
It was pretty close to I quit, and it was a lot like trying to tear off my own arm.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it was I enjoyed the work. I had fun doing the work, but I didn't want to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a means to an end for me. And every chance I got in the homes, I would draw, and I would tell everybody about the things that I've done, and but no, I mean you can't fake passion, and that's what it is. It's passion,
right?
And it's and I don't know how religious you are, but I believe that it's innate. It's with you when you were born. It's given to you by God.
Yeah.
And that's just part of what we're here for, what we're here to do. And if we're not doing it, if we're not doing it, then we're suffering.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember drawing in nursery school. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
literally, I just never not remember being an artist, or being a part of it. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even to do my schoolwork, the only reason why was like if I drew pictures, the little girls would like me,
Mm-hmm.
At my age, they're Facebook friends now from 50 years ago, from first and second grade, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, I can't remember not ever wanting to do it, and so the question that was asked, Hayashi's question was, what would you do if you never? If the industry failed and you didn't have that again, I don't see that ever being a question. It's just like if all my computers went off, then I would just pick up a pencil, 5 cents,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Very cool. You're listening to Genesis Science Fiction Radio, a service of the BlackScienceFiction.com website. We have come to the close of the April 12th, 2013 edition. We've been talking to Lamont Wayne. For those of you who want more information about him, we have things posted all over BSFS. And as he said, the Google has been very kind to him. So if you want to check out Lamont and some of the things that he's done, take a look at the breadth of his talent and his skills. That's an easy way to find him. I want to thank everybody who participated and listened in. I would like to ask that those of you who have listened, please, please, please let other people know that this show occurs every Friday night. It starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow it all the way through to the rest of the time zones. We've even had people here from South Africa in on the show. Let folks know that if they want to know a little bit more about Lamont, we can. This will be posted as a podcast, so people can actually listen to the show. As we're winding out, I'm going to ask our good friend Jarvis to unmute, and if he has any last words to say, to give them up, and then we're going to conclude the show, and after we're done recording the show, we will have the online after party. Oh, well, I guess he's going to, there you go.
Okay, as requested, I have unmuted.
Yes.
I just want to thank everybody, as always, for participating in the show, and to please continue to come back and tell people about the show. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to wish everybody a good night. And Lamont, thank you very much, man. This was a lot of fun for me. I hope it was for you as well.
Oh, this was a lot of fun. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, and we're going to drag you back in the future, if that's okay with you.
Oh, that's great. Anytime.
All right, looking forward to it. Everybody have a good night, and thanks for listening.
All righty. Alrighty. 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 Alrighty.